One of my favorite Bible verses is Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verse 1 all the way to 8. I'm going to be looking at a screen to read it because I don't have it memorized. I probably should have it memorized because it's one of my favorites, but I'm still learning. Okay, I'm going to just read it to you real quick, then I'll kind of explain my thoughts throughout it. It says, "There is a time for everything, a season for every activity under the heavens, a time to be born, a time to plant." Oh, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to tear down, a time to build up, a time to weep, a time to laugh, a time to mourn, a time to dance, a time to scatter stones, a time to gather them, a time to embrace, a time to refrain from embracing, a time to search, a time to give up, a time to keep, and a time to throw away, a time to tear and a time to mend, a time to be silent and a time to speak, a time to love, a time to hate, a time of war, and a time of peace. I'm just going to be reading those first 8 verses. And I probably go back through some of them, but the reason why I'm talking about this is because it's very, very, very important to understand timing. Because I think sometimes I do stuff that's out of timing. I think that we think that, lol, I, and probably you, make the same mistakes of not understanding the time to do certain things. We do sometimes sometimes we tear down when we're meant to be building up. And sometimes we build when we're meant to tear down. Sometimes we laugh when we're meant to be crying, and that's okay. And sometimes we cry when we're meant to be laughing. Sometimes we gather stones when it's time to actually throw them away. Sometimes we embrace things we shouldn't be embracing, especially in times we're supposed to be pushing them away from us. Sometimes it's the time to give up of certain things, and sometimes it's the time to search even harder. Like it says, a time to love and a time to hate. And it's just, in life, there's going to be several things that happen. There's going to be different seasons. There's going to be different things when different things literally happen. Or there's going to be different times when different things happen. And that's okay. There's a time for everything. The verse literally says there is a time for everything and a season for every activity under the heavens. A couple years ago was the time for me to apply for college, and that's okay. Yeah, I'm in college now. It's no longer the time for me to apply for college. It's just different times. Oh my goodness, like I learned. I used to think. I used to speak without thinking. I know, right? Like that sounds like kind of weird, but I'm very weird. You probably can tell. But I used to talk without thinking, and oh my goodness, that caused lots of problems. And there's definitely a time to think. There's a time to think, and there's a time to act. I think sometimes I used to fall in line with the think less and just act, act, act. And I think it's understanding the time for these things. There's a time to plan. There's a time to act. And understanding timing, you can prepare correctly and also do the deedful when it's time. And also, like, sometimes you just don't do things on time, and that's okay. Because we're human. Have grace. God, grace is very, very important. Have grace on yourself. But it's very, very, very important to understand timing. And in that, I think you understand the flow and how just kind of live. The reason why this is one of my favorite Bible verses because it encompasses all of life. In life there will be death. In life there will be birth. And I truly believe like everything here in this verse literally encompasses life. I'm gonna read it one more time. It says, "There's a time for everything, and a season for every activity under the heavens. A time to be born, a time to die, a time to root." Oh wait, I can actually move it. Oh my gosh, I can move it in the middle so I can actually kind of look at you more whenever I say this. Okay, I'm gonna reread it again. "There's a time for everything and a season for every activity under the heavens. A time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to uproot, a time to heal, a time to kill, a time to tear down, a time to build, a time to weep, and a time to laugh, a time to mourn, and a time to dance." Like, personally, when I die, I don't want a funeral. I want like a party. I think it would be more celebratory of life because death is just a time. Oh, let's pass that part though. And it says, "A time to scatter stones and a time to gather them, a time of embracing and a time of refraining from embracing, a time to search and a time to give up, a time to keep and a time to throw away, a time to tear and a time to mend, a time to be silent and a time to speak, a time to love, a time to hate, and a time of war and a time of peace. It truly is time for everything. There's a time for everything. Everything that literally is said here, I think we're all going to pass in some way in our lives. And it's very true. There is time for all of these things. And it's just embracing these moments for what they are. Thank you for listening.